Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another movie review. And today's film review is Thunderbolts, which was recently released on Disney Plus. Now, I've known of Thunderbolts for a very long time, and it's always been very interesting to me how their film would go about becoming a film. And I can't lie, I wasn't too disappointed, except for one minor detail that I will explain as the video progresses. So essentially, what are the Thunderbolts? Well, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have a bunch of different uh, anti-heroes, you might as well call them, who essentially come together to form their version of the Avengers. This consists of Bucky Barnes, Yelena, Walker, who is essentially the opposite of Captain America. He tried to be Captain America, but after a massive incident in the Winter Soldier series, he essentially gave up that title and became this opposite of Captain America. The Red Guardian, which is the adoptive father of Yelena. Ghost, who is essentially a experiment that went wrong to do with the quantum verse. Essentially, her particles and molecules get ricocheted in this explosion, and ever since then, she can walk through walls. The final, but very disappointing character who was in this film was Taskmaster. Now, this is not, of course, disregarding Bobby at all. Bobby is brilliant. He's the Sentry. But of the original main bases, let's just very quickly talk about Taskmaster. Taskmaster is part of the Red Room / Black Widow operation, and essentially the biggest villain in the Black Widow franchise. But of course, they fall very short in this film with their pretty much 2-second little cameo. This personally disappointed me about the movie because I really, really hoped we'd see more from Taskmaster, especially with him being on the poster and a lot of the promos. But of course, the film went in a different direction. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get into the main plot of the film. Yelena is getting fed up working for this woman that she works for, and essentially she wants to quit. And so she goes to the Red Guardian, who she hasn't seen since the death of her sister, and starts explaining to him the way that she feels so broken. He also points out that he was broken as well, and he didn't know exactly how to communicate as a father figure towards her. All the dark times they've been through since the Red Room and the Avengers and everything else that's happened over the years has really ricocheted their relationship and their lifestyle. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Bucky Barnes is interfering with this operation to do with this woman that they all despise. This woman's name is Valentina. Valentina is a bit of a extremist. She believes that she can do whatever she likes and get away with it, and pretty much for the most part she has. She's taken a lot of alien technology and taken a lot of things from the Avengers over the years that she shouldn't really have possession of, and showcased it in a kind of charity event. Now Bucky despises her for all the right reasons, because she's the reason that Walker almost became Captain America. So after all the events of this, essentially, Yelena goes to the last vault trying to do the last job on Valentina's list. But Valentina has other ideas. She has gotten all of her operatives, from Ghost to Walker to Taskmaster, and even Bobby, and locked them all inside a neat little vault and tried to incinerate them. But this plan goes up the creek when Yelena and the group manage to break out. Taskmaster is sadly the only person that doesn't get out, as they get shot dead in the face within 2 minutes. Through the course of this, they begin to question who Bobby is and exactly what he's doing in the nightgown in this secure base. They begin to get this foreshadowing that there may be more to Bobby than meets the eye, especially after every time that Bobby seems to touch people, they all seem to get nightmares from their past. Yelena pushes Bobby back to the background, believing him just to be an innocent civilian who happened to be inside the vault. But after breaking out with the help of the Ghost and Walker, they soon realise that, in fact, that is not the case. It turns out he's a little bit of a metahuman with superpower abilities, and whatever was plugged into his system has pretty much made him indestructible. Yelena, the Ghost, and Walker manage to escape the facility, sadly leaving Bobby behind. And once they get further enough away, they find themselves in the company of the Red Guardian, who turns up conveniently rather late to mention the fact of them almost being incinerated inside the vault. Whilst cruising along in his nice limousine, they point out the fact that Yelena told them the story of the Thunderbolts, a team that never won, but apparently one of the girls crapped their pants, which isn't quite relevant to this story, but let's just say that was part of it. This makes the Red Guardian laugh, and then he starts to point out the fact that he believes that they should all become a proper united team. But this happy memory is lived short, as suddenly they have Bucky Barnes on their case, and he seems to be shooting at their truck. He turns the limousine over and captures them all as evidence against Valentina. But as soon as they mention Bobby, Bucky Barnes' opinion slowly begins to change. They head towards the city in hopes of stopping Bobby from becoming the proper Sentinel. But sadly for them it's too late. Valentina has got her claws in and essentially starts to begin to convince them the fact that he is going to be the greatest superhero that mankind or humankind ever needs. She tries to turn him against the Thunderbolts, and essentially this works for the most part. But after the Thunderbolts flee, worried about what the Sentinel can do, aka Bobby, they go downstairs and split up their group. Meanwhile, Valentina is left upstairs and starts to point out that she has the power over the Sentry. When the Sentry gets annoyed though, he points out that he has more power than she could possibly grasp, and for that reason he wouldn't think twice if it came down to eliminating her himself. This of course causes his darker half to come out, and essentially half the street and the world begins to turn into a void. Yelena walks into this void feeling subtly suicidal in the fact that she's not too sure where she's going. But of course, Ghost and Walker suddenly realise there's got to be a little bit more to it, as after all, Bobby can't kill, can he? After going into this nightmarish dream, they soon realise that Bobby is locked within his own soul, and the only way to break out is to destroy his darker self. The Thunderbolts arrive inside his nightmare trying to help him out, but sadly it comes down to him to save himself from his own inner demon. After breaking free and all of the Thunderbolts coming together once again, they head towards Valentina, and suddenly they are labelled the new Avengers. Later down the line, after this story completes, we have a couple of post-credit scenes. One post-credit scene is the Red Guardian showing his new Avengers on a cereal box that he tries to sell to a woman in a supermarket. The second post-credit scene shows all of the Thunderbolts in their HQ, where essentially they start to point out the fact that the new Captain America has copyrighted the whole Avengers shriek and won't let them use it. So Red Guardian bites back by saying to the group, "But we're an Avengers with a Z, you can't copyright if we have a Z." They all laugh at this, and of course Sentry sits in the corner looking out the window. But suddenly when the alarms go off, they all realise that something is coming through the atmosphere, and suddenly realise it's none other than the Fantastic Four. So, overall, what did I think of the Thunderbolts film? I like Yelena, I like Red Guardian, I like Ghost, I like Walker, I like all of them, I like Bobby, I like the dynamic they have, and most importantly, I really like that Bucky Barnes gets a time to shine in this film, even if it's very brief. Him being a kind of mentor to everyone in the group, alongside Yelena, just feels very right. It feels very what they needed. And as we're coming towards Avengers Doomsday at some point next year, I feel like this is the best point at which things can move forward. However, that being said, as I previously mentioned in this review, the one thing I really was heavily disappointed with was the use of Taskmaster. I also wish we'd had a little bit more time, though, to breathe in this film. It felt very rushed during certain bits. There was some really good moments, like people getting turned into like this black ash on the floor. The scene with Bobby going up in the sky was pretty good, but I feel like I really, really would have enjoyed a little bit more if we'd had a little bit more time in the vault. And maybe even so, we could have had Bucky Barnes be trapped in the vault at some point, rather than just him turning up on a motorcycle, which was pretty epic, don't get me wrong, but him turning up on a motorbike, destroying the limousine, felt a little bit misplaced in this film. And for that reason, sadly, I have to give the Thunderbolts a 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next film review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, and have a great night.